Hey guys, so I thought I would make a video on this because I thought it was just sad to read, really. It's a little bit of an old article, but it sort of seems to have been pretty relevant for the last few years at least, if not longer. The amount of people on standard variable rate mortgages is sort of higher than ever in Britain. So a quick sort of word on standard variable rate mortgages, a variable rate that you'll be moved on to once your fixed rate tracker or discount mortgage ends. So generally you'll take out a 25-year mortgage, say, or a 30-year mortgage when buying a house, and the US have sort of 25 or 30-year fixed rate mortgages, so they do this a little bit more sensible than us, maybe. We generally have sort of either a 2-year or a 5-year fixed rate period, and then if you don't remortgage, you move on to the standard variable rate. So you can sort of, if you take a 2-year, you can remortgage after 2 years, get another 2-year, or get a 5-year, and just keep getting 5-year fixes, say, until the end of the mortgage. But if you don't, and you move on to the standard variable rate, then you're just at the whim of whatever the bank decide to do. So they'll sort of move it up and down with the base rate generally, but they don't seem to put it down all that much when you would expect them to. So generally when the base rate goes up, they will put it up. But when they sort of come crashing down, like in the last few years, they don't really put it down as much as you'd think. And just looking at the sort of stats, they're saying anywhere from sort of 25, 27% up to half of the UK's households could be on standard variable rate. So just to put some numbers on it, the current Bank of England base rate is 4%. It's been rocketing up sort of in the last year. It was at sort of 0.5% for a very, very long while. Come down to 0.25, went up to a half, and 0.75, then back down to 0.1% during COVID, and then has sort of been rocketing up over the last year, and has now got to 4%, potentially sort of going slightly higher, but probably not all that much higher. And yeah, if you look at, I found a website that gives you sort of historical standard variable rates. So while we were at sort of 0.1%, moving up to sort of 0.25%, the standard variable rates for most of the sort of big banks were really 4.5 to 5%. You got Barclays 4.75%. A few of the sort of other smaller banks are more, some are less. Coventry Building Society, quite a sort of a big one at the moment, fairly cheap. They put theirs up 0.15% in December 2021 as the base rate started rising. Halifax and Lloyds were a bit lower, but a lot of people sort of using brokers do tend to be with these sort of smaller banks. And yeah, you were getting sort of during this time, you were quite easily able to get fixed rate deals. Sort of, I saw a 5-year fixed rate deal at 0.99%. So basically 1%, and it was sort of quite easy to get 1.5%. That being sort of, you know, a percent or two above the Bank of England base rate, which you could normally get. But the standard variable rates, if you didn't do that, were sort of 4.5%. And now, obviously, you've got 4% Bank of England base rate, and the standard variable rates are going up to sort of 6.5%, 7%, 7.5%, some of them. Barclays have just put theirs up 0.5%. They're now at 6.99%. You've got HSBC at just put theirs up to 7. Nationwide have just put theirs up to 7.5. So 7.5% mortgage rates just sort of seems a little crazy. I went on sort of Money Supermarket and just sort of having a look at what you can get, and yeah, 5-year fixed rates with, admittedly, some banks that you may not use all that much, but yeah, sort of some reputable names in here. First Direct, Cord Mortgages, they're sort of reasonable. Newcastle Building Society, and they're all sort of 5%. I expect if you sort of scroll further down, you're going to see some of the larger sort of lenders slightly worse. Chelsea Building Society, and yeah, if you go on theirs, they're going to be in the 5% range. So again, it's 1% above Bank of England base rate, same as they were sort of around this time. So yeah, a lot of people are paying, well, 25 to 50% of Britain are paying 7 to 7.5%, and you can quite easily get a 5-year fixed rate for 5%. So sort of at a time where people are saying they're struggling with bills and struggling with inflation and that sort of thing, then really you need to be sort of looking at your bills and being a little bit smarter about it. So there was some research sort of attempting to give some reasons for this. They were saying 46% of people are not aware that you ever remortgage. Basically, 54% of people are sort of aware that when your mortgage deal comes to an end, you don't just, it's not a discounted period for the first few years. It is something that you redo, every time it ends, basically, and they just sort of go up and down with that. They're saying they're confused by what a remortgage actually is. A large number believe it means taking on more debt, which it can do, but usually doesn't. It would just mean retaking out a deal, same as your gas and electric or your Sky bill or something. 8% confused it with taking out a second mortgage, and 6% just don't know what it means. And similarly, 10% don't know what a standard variable rate mortgage is. I would say probably that's more than that, because if you know what it is, you probably know it's not the best thing to be on. 10% believe that the higher monthly payments of SVR will result in their mortgage being paid off sooner, which it certainly doesn't. You're just paying more interest. And yeah, it's sort of, they're saying probably a lack of mortgage advice. Some people don't want to have people delve into their finances during sort of rough times and recession. Maybe sort of if they were to scrutinise their finances, maybe they can't really afford the mortgage and they might get refused. So that could cause issues, but yeah, I can't see that's the case for the majority of people. So really, it's just a sort of confusion and lack of education thing. We do talk about this a lot in the Discord, sort of lack of education, really. This sort of stuff isn't taught in schools, in your maths class. Really, I think it should be sort of real world issues and problems. But yeah, just sort of a public service announcement, if you like. If you know anybody who is on standard variable rate, then maybe have a discussion with them and get them over to sort of getting a fixed rate, maybe, or even just a variable. A variable rate is going to be generally far cheaper than a standard variable rate. You can go on fixed rates, or change from fixed rates to variable, and you'll get discounted rates, which are sort of, so much for a period, and then they move up slightly, but they'll still be, they might go from 4.8% to 5.5% or something, but obviously never to 7.5%, as a lot of people seem to be paying. So, yeah, I just thought I'd have a little rant about these because it's just sickening, really. As I say, inflation. Sort of, you hear all these stories on the news about people sort of struggling to pay their bills. They're eating beans and not buying Christmas presents for the kids and that sort of thing. And if they're paying, £2,000 a year or £4,000 a year potentially more on their mortgage unnecessarily, then it's a bit sad. So yeah, leave your thoughts in comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.